Good afternoon, class. For this discussion on fundamentalist modernist, I chose to do a leader, J. Frank Morris, and according to course guidelines, historians must be honest and objective in their investigations. So J. Frank Morris was a Baptist pastor from Fort Worth, Texas. According to the Washington Post following his death in 1952, the Reverend J. Frank Norris, who believed that a preacher ought to stir up the devil. This type of phrasing and other belief system of his really influenced the way he taught following the Owensboro, Kentucky revival in 1910. He's also, he stood trial for a murder, pled self-defense, and was found not guilty. So, and I'll talk about that later. It was the Owensboro, Kentucky revival in 1910 that seemed to really change J. Frank Morris. This is even in his own words, he says that he was transformed. There's a lot of legends surrounding what happened, why such a transformation took place. Some of it said it was on a train. Others said it was actually in Ohio. He got on the wrong train and it took him up to Ohio. Others said it was in actually Owensboro, Kentucky when he was preaching to the people. So there's a lot of information about what might have occurred and where and with who. But according to Dwight A. Moody, he stepped off the train to as the intelligent, educated, and self-controlled minister of a large, wealthy, and sophisticated congregation in Texas. He returned home the flamboyant, belligerent, and out-of-control preacher who would become a leader of Protestant fundamentalism. He is considered the first Southern Baptist Convention fundamentalist, or SBC, which I'll probably use later on. He is also considered the first megachurch pastor, as he had a congregation in both Texas, Fort Worth, and Detroit, Michigan. In 1909 until his death in 1952, he was a pastor at First Baptist in Fort Worth, and in 1935 to 1950, he pastored simultaneously at the Temple Baptist Church in Detroit. He had his share of misdeeds to his name. According to Justin Taylor, he was indicted in the burning of his own church in 1912, again for the infamous murder in 1926, and under suspicion for burning of his church again in 1929. Many consider Norris as a separatist fundamentalist, as he spent his career calling out the SBC. He spent a lot of his time traveling around doing revivals and making appearances at all manners of fundamentalist meetings. He relied upon his lieutenants to run things when he was away. They said it was actually difficult to find him at either church. One of his lieutenants, a G. Beauchamp Vic, found evidence that Norris was misappropriating funds from his Bible Baptist seminary. The confrontation led Vic to forming the Baptist Bible College as he left, since Norris told him that he could do with whatever he wanted with the money since it was his. According to Barry Hankins, his need to be in the public eye and his desire to control all facets of his own empire often led him to engage in some of the most outlandish acts imaginable for a fundamentalist pastor. And we see in 1926, many of the fundamentalists and a lot of the religious leaders were very anti-Catholic. And Norris was definitely staunchly anti-Catholic. He spoke out a lot against the mayor. So, fateful day, July 17th, 1926. Dexter Elliott Chips Sr. called Norris, complaining about his treatment about the mayor in his paper, The Fundamentalist. Norris and Chips proceeded to argue. Chips ended up going to the congregation, to the church, and the arguing continued, and Norris proceeded to shoot Chips 3 times, ultimately leading to his death. The trial ensues and finds Norris not guilty due to self-defense. But definitely Norris was the most significant Southern fundamentalist of his era. And there is my presentation. Thank you so much.